I know how much you're into Survivor. And that kind of got me interested in you guys too, because I love Survivor. What do you think, or how do you think Paul Greene would do on Survivor?
Ooh,
and what were his pros and cons as to how he would do well or not do well?
I think he would have to survive the first round of eliminations because he's such a gentle, sensitive soul that and also an athletic threat. So they'd want to get him out immediately. So he would first have to get past that first round, and then when they would see his skills in both athleticism but also just bringing the tribe together, I feel like he would definitely.
I was gonna say he's so good at bringing together community, and so many of the people on Survivor who are kept around, it's because the value they bring to camp sometimes. So you can tell he'd be a physical threat, but I also think that he would be kept around for the asset he brings to camp. But Allison has a great idea, and I'll pitch this here so it'll just get into the ether, that there should be a Survivor season
Should I
where.
say it?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Allison.
There should be a Survivor season that's from the first season to present, which I think we're on 42. All of the first offs get to come back and play because they didn't get.
So it's all the first offs are the tribes.
Yeah,
and that would be fun to see just how all the first offs do together.
I want to welcome you to another wonderful, vibrant, fun episode of Media from the Heart. My name is Ruth Hill, and I am your host. Today, I am sharing a really fun episode with you. We had the Instagram phenomenon, there's a reason I say that, Sparks of Comedy, the Sparks twins, Cinnamon and Allison, and we got to chat with them about all sorts of things, including Survivor, as you just heard, as well as Tarzan, murder mysteries, a little of their story, what you might have to look forward to in the future from them, their pandemic experience. There's so much. And of course, the Paul Greene correlation, well, we couldn't get away from that because that's how I discovered these two amazing young ladies. So it is with my joy and my honor to be able to introduce you to the wonderful Sparks of Comedy. Enjoy.
Well, I want to welcome you to another episode of Media from the Heart. My name is Ruth Hill, and I am your host. And I have two very special guests today. These guests are I was introduced to them through Paul Greene, and I think a lot of our virtual audience we have here probably knows about them because of Paul Greene. Because whenever Paul will come on Instagram Live, he'll say, "Oh, there's Sparks of Comedy," and we kept hearing Sparks of Comedy, Sparks of Comedy. And I remember the first time that he ever said that, I'm like, who are these people? Sparks of Comedy? Who? Is that like a person, a group? Who are these people? And I remember looking them up and like, oh, they're twin sisters. How cool is that? And so I just want to thank you both for being here. I want to officially welcome you. And I'd like to also, I'm going to read just a little bit about them as they have a beautiful bio that I'm going to read to you here. Cinnamon, born first, always said they had to wait for the applause to die down before Allison could arrive a full 20 minutes later. Allison, born second, always has to explain why her name isn't Nutmeg. As identical twins, the sisters have always been protective of their individuality. After university, Cinnamon headed abroad to explore and teach in Europe, while Allison packed up her car and headed west to write and teach in LA. But as best friends, the twins often reunited for visits and sister trips, making comedic videos of their adventures to share with family and friends. Known for being rather quiet and composed individually, they surprised and entertained their friends with the unexpected dynamic created whenever they were together. In 2017, everything changed for the Sparks twins. Cinnamon was recruited to teach at a school in Newport Beach, just an hour from Allison's school in the Pacific Palisades. And the two writing teachers found themselves living on the same coast for the first time since university. With their new proximity, the sisters decided to try something they'd never done before. They began writing together, and the effect was an instantaneous spark. Seemingly overnight, the sisters started performing sold-out shows of their original sketches at Comedy Central Stage, UCB, and the Groundlings, and co-writing together on TV scripts. Soon after, they were picked up by literary titan Circle of Confusion. In 2018, the sisters left the classroom to become full-time writers, and they've been collaborating together on projects ever since. All right, so Cinnamon and Allison.
Thank you for having us.
It is so nice to get to see you all. I mean, I know that for me, it was like, well, you're almost always there for Paul Greene's lives on Instagram, which is really cool to see. We love getting to see you there. And actually, the reason I reached out to you was he brought you both on one of his lives, and you had and you were like in the middle of the forest or something like that on a walk, weren't you? Isn't that right?
We were hiking.
Yeah, exactly. So I just absolutely love the fact that you both are here. You both are twin sisters. Now, when I look at you, I know you're identical twins, but you don't. I wouldn't say that you look absolutely identical. You do
good.
have
That's
your.
That's
so
a
good.
good sign.
We try so hard. We hope that people can tell us apart, and we're
Specifically our parents.
Oh my goodness. Did you ever have times when you were growing up where your parents got you two confused?
Daily.
Allison's convinced they got us confused from day one, and that she should be named Cinnamon, and that I'm Allison. Allison's convinced of that.
I feel like a cinnamon.
Okay. I kind of see that. So is there? So first of all, you guys were born in Canada, is that correct?
Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut. I thought you were born in Canada. See, look at me. I was, for some reason, I don't know where I got in my mind that you were born in Canada. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So Connecticut.
Yes, yeah.
And our parents are from Texas originally, and now we're all living in California. So it's a very
mismatched.
It's a patchwork quilt.
Our parents were Texans who were artists, so they'd worked out of Manhattan. So we grew up in like the part of Connecticut that's right by Manhattan. We're like a commutable.
It's the thumb of Connecticut.
It's considered the suburb of Manhattan. And then when we went off to university and we were old enough to live on our own, we came out to LA because our parents had met in LA at Art Center, and we'd heard all this lore about
the weather.
Yeah, true.
So we moved to California, and then our parents followed us.
Oh, I see. Okay, I gotcha. All right. And so is there now your name, Cinnamon and Allison. Now I can understand why Allison would feel like she has to defend, well, why am I not nutmeg or some other spice like that? Is there any reasoning behind and any story about your name?
Oh yeah. Do you want to? Yeah. You do the first half, I'll do the second half.
Well, my parents, for the longest time, thought they were having two boys. One boy. Yeah. Because our heartbeats were in sync. So in their initial, very early on doctor's appointments, the doctor said, "Oh, it sounds like it's a big, healthy boy." And so I always joke that they were still on the epidural by the time they had two girls and had to name them very quickly.
They didn't find out not until my mom went into labor did they find out they were having twins, and
they were girls.
And Cinnamon was firstborn, so she got the sort of high on life name that my mom had. My mom was excited to have the first baby, and I was named after her favorite.
I was going to say Allison has the very sentimental name. She's named after my mom's favorite aunt, and I'm named after, I guess,
Mission Impossible.
I don't like saying that one. There's also a baby doll. There's a baby doll called the Cinnamon Doll. And when my mom was little, she had a little cinnamon doll. And she thought, oh, if I ever have a baby, I would name it Cinnamon. So
and then she saw Mission Impossible, and she thought it's possible.
Because there was a character named Cinnamon, but
Oh my goodness. So your parents didn't know that they were having twins until she went into labor.
I don't know if that's because they were very natural artists, organic types, or maybe we were, born way before there was any kind of technology, and that might date us. So I don't know.
Why would you say way before?
We were in a cave.
The day before.
My mom was chiseling what she thought it might be.
waiting before.
Oh my goodness, that's I don't think that's not a standard thing that you think about. Even back in the olden days, it seems like they would know. They'd somehow figure out they were having twins, but that's just. I mean, not always, but it's like, wow, that's really.
Well, it's so funny because when people hear my name at work, they used to, when I was teaching, they would say, "Your parents must have been hippies," and I said, "No, my parents aren't hippies." And like, did they drive a Volkswagen bus and travel around Europe? And I was like, "Yeah, does that make them hippies? I guess they are hippies." They're very natural. Do they not eat sugar and have long hair? Do they braid? Yes.
Both,
Okay, I guess my
yes.
parents are hippies. I don't think of them as hippies, but maybe they are hippies.
Or very, very incompetent doctors in Connecticut. One of the two.
Oh my goodness. So you two were best friends, basically. I mean, you got along. It's always nice when you have sisters and then twins, and you're actually getting along. You're not. I mean, I'm not saying you never had a fight. I mean, I'm sure that you had your issues here and there, but you were best friends as you were growing up. And so, when did you know that you wanted to pursue writing?
I think all through school. We definitely loved writing. Like Cinnamon and I, when we would start playing dolls or play make believe, even with our friends, they're ready to put on your mom's clothes and your high heels, and Cinnamon and I would like head to the kitchen table and start doing backstory of our characters first. We're like, born in how many children? Like we're very like
What's the motivation?
So I think we were always writing.
I was very, very shy. I don't want to speak for you. You were also shy, but in middle school and high school. And I remember going home and writing scripts of all the things I wish I could say, or if someone says this to me, here are all the options, all the alts of what I would say. So I think we were always like using writing as a tool to, and our parents being hippies would put away the TV every summer.
Yeah.
So I remember like the last day of school every year when people were like, yay, I can watch anything. Our parents were like wrapping up the TVs and heading to the attic and being like, no TV for the summer. So we would write our own little plays and things.
That's wild. Oh my goodness. I can't imagine that. My goodness. I used to watch TV all the time when of course I was always watching oldies. I didn't watch the modern stuff. I was watching all the old classic TV. I lived on I Love Lucy and the Dick Van Dyke Show and the Jack Benny Show. I mean,
yes, I remember Jack Benny.
Oh, I was absolutely. I was in love with old Hollywood, and so I was watching all of it. Father Knows Best, the Donna Reed Show. I mean, I was watching anytime there were all these shows. That's what I was watching.
Did you see Nicole Kidman's what was it, Being the Ricardos? Is that what it's called?
I have not seen that yet. I plan to. It's on my list to see. Have you guys seen it?
I haven't, but
I've watched bits and pieces of it. I've tried watching it 3 times. It's really challenging. I don't think I watched enough I'm familiar with I Love Lucy, but I wouldn't say that they're speaking very specifically of an episode, and I don't know it enough to know what episode they're talking about. So I haven't watched all the way through, but enough to be impressed by the performances for sure. She definitely captured. She looks nothing like Lucy, so to capture Lucy is really impressive.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I did see her when they did because I also watched Bewitched, and she was in the Bewitched movie.
Right.
And I loved her in that. I loved Nicole Kidman in that. That was awesome. So I think that might have been my first. What was that?
I was saying, you were saying you love old TV, and I remember on Saturdays they used to play the old black and white Tarzan movies, and I just remember as a kid like bringing my breakfast tray in to the family room to watch the black and white Tarzans. I used to be obsessed with those.
Oh,
I don't know. Just thought I'd share that.
That might be Connecticut.
We'll delete that.
Which is
out.
why we're in the forest today. Maybe that's why you were called to the forest. Now we'll bring it. We'll tie that with a little ribbon.
That's why I've been knitting those vines.
well, hey, we're ready to do a remake of Tarzan. Why not? Why couldn't you do that? I mean, who would you want? Who would play Tarzan though? If you guys redid Tarzan, who would you get to play Tarzan?
Who would be
that
Tarzan? That's a
is.
great question. We saw briefly, very, very briefly.
Don't say anything embarrassing.
Okay.
I'm tapping your knee. We have all sorts of like twin
okay.
signals.
I was gonna say there's a new actor where I think he.
Don't-
Okay, won't
Is
say
he over
anything.
the age of 30? Don't say anything under the age of 30.
Timothy Chalamet. No,
Is
just
it Timothy Chalamet? Just kidding, Tim.
Just kidding, Tim.
Well, if you two were to do a remake of Tarzan, you could make it very comedic, and it could be so fun. I could see you two doing that. That's good, and I could see that being lots of fun. And maybe you could both be in the movie, and you could add in you could have sisters. Change it to it's not just Jane, but you have two sisters, and they're both after Tarzan. Who knows? You could do something like that.
That's a very,
you work
like,
very quickly. You should be in a writing room.
That's like
very good.
7 Brides for 7 Brothers meets Tarzan.
Ooh, I like that. Oh my goodness, that would be amazing. Oh, let's see. Paula Waters is saying Travis Van Winkle needs to play Tarzan.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yes.
That might not be so bad. I could see that. I could see that possibly. We might be looking. Well, I guess especially if we did kind of an older version. Where the people are a little more seasoned rather than just like little 20-something people or something like that.
Kind of like Tarzan, the later years.
There you go. I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, that's cool. This is what I love about these podcasts. Is we have so much fun. I never know where they're going to go. So I didn't know we'd be talking about Tarzan. So who knows? See, you just don't know. It's like who knows? So you guys then were separated then for a while, one in Europe, one in LA, and so what was it like since you two had grown up together and you were so close, best friends? What was it like being separated for those years?
I think I probably was like Sin was very confident about the choice to like she really wanted to live in Europe. I really wanted to be in LA. There was that moment of like making that decision. Okay, we'll have to do this for a while. And
for like 12 years we weren't even in the same city. We weren't even, and half that time we weren't even the same country. So there's a huge chunk. And then when I started working for I won't say the school, but then we were at least within like commutable distance.
But I was going to say during that time, I feel like I had a more rough time with it. Like I thought we should be living in the same city or same state or country at least. And Cinnamon was like,
no. First of all, that's not true because you were the one we had both accepted a contract to teach at a school in Germany.
Yes.
And I absolutely fell in love with living abroad.
Yeah.
And Allison was not as crazy about it. Allison was ready to return to the States a lot sooner than I was. And so I was like, well, I was trying to come up with a compromise. And because this would have been right after college and it would have been our first time going separate ways. So because we hadn't gone separate ways yet, I was just trying to come up with a compromise for like, why don't we just sign a 2-year contract? It doesn't have to be forever because I could have easily done forever over there. And Allison was like, nope, I'm leaving on the next plane type thing. And so you did. So harder for me. You left and I was the one who was like, all right, I guess I'll stay by myself. But it worked out for the best. It absolutely worked out for the best.
There was young love and the guy that I liked was back in LA. I mean, there were little complications that like lured me away back to LA. But it all worked out in the end.
It all worked out for the best. And I think that it's a blessing to have this time where we're both under the same roof again. But I also think that we know it's not going to be forever. So it's a very precious chapter to be in this little cabin and get to relive our
very little
childhood.
cabin. Very little cabin.
I was going to say, we could argue probably more than people would realize, but I think we also make up very quick. It's more
bicker,
of a,
bicker.
it's bicker. It's bicker. If only you saw what was happening under the camera.
Oh, yeah. I do try to keep this PG rated at the highest. You know, we don't want it to be where murders are going on or anything like that. So let's kind of keep witnesses. It. Yeah, right, exactly. We do have a virtual audience here, and I know kind of what stays. You know, what happens here stays here, but if a crime happens, I don't know. There might be some legalities there, but.
That would be a fun. You could almost do a crime drama about two twins where one dies, but they change identity. Like the murderer. Like I was just thinking, if the victim, if suddenly I'm like, oh look, Cinnamon's dead.
Cinnamon, you've gone off. What was the hand signal for don't say anything else?
Oh my goodness. You two are definitely a delight. This is we're having so much fun, and I can tell you the audience is just absolutely loving. They're loving. I'm reading the comments as they pop up, and they're enjoying your energy, and they're having so much fun. So this is fun, and I knew we'd have a great time. So you two you used to be teachers, and you were teaching writing. Is that am I correct on that?
Alice was teaching writing. I was teaching writing as in first grade how to write, but Alice was a high school English teacher, so she's
and our degrees are in writing, and not so we're not official teachers. Like we couldn't teach in a public school.
Well, I have a master's in education, so
I guess you could, couldn't you? Yeah.
I got my master's.
I'm not. Mine is writing, and so I was hired by schools to teach writing. So it's very specific, but absolutely loved being in the classroom. That was as a child, I just had this dream that I was going to be a teacher. I used to teach my stuffed animals. They're the smartest stuffed animals you could ever find. They endured so many hours of lessons.
We had little chalkboards and whiteboards put on our walls, and we would do like very intricate lessons.
Very, very. And our younger sister was forced to be in my classroom
quite
daily.
Quite a lot.
But so I feel very grateful for the years I had in the classroom. I absolutely think that was something I was meant to do for that time. And I still have my students who are, oh, look at that, Paul! All right,
boys and girls,
take your seats.
Join us.
Please raise your hand.
Sense memory kicks in, and I'm ready to start a lesson.
But so definitely, I think, our students are like college age now. For me, I was teaching secondary school. Cinnamons are maybe like fifth graders, but I think I always look back and think that was a beautiful chapter, and I'm so grateful for it, and it definitely touched my life. So happy to have been a teacher when I was.
I hear you on that. I was a teacher too, and I loved teaching, and I'm grateful that at this point that chapter's done, because I don't think that I had the passion to do it like for my whole life, shall I say. Because my daughter now, Martha, she's going for art education, and she has got this drive within her that I didn't really have as a teacher. I mean, I loved parts of it, and I was a music teacher, so it's a little bit different, but I loved putting on programs. That was what I loved, but there were parts of teaching that I was not as much in love with. As far as the day-to-day stuff, I think sometimes I got bored. I will be honest. There are those times where it's like, I've been teaching this and I've taught this to so many students, and trying to always make it interesting. That's why I love substitute teaching. In fact, I probably preferred that, because I never knew what my day was going to be like, and never knew what I was be teaching. You know, I was teaching everything from auto shop to history, to English, to PE. I mean, all these different things I was subbing for, and it was just a blast to get to do it for that day. Yeah, auto shop was an interesting one that I taught auto shop several times. As a matter of fact, I was a sub for auto shop. That was an experience.
That sounds like a TV show.
I've always wanted to take auto shop, because I think that's a skill.
Yeah,
I think that's such a strong skill to be able to have. Then when you go to the mechanics, you can't get duped.
Not that you would be.
Not that anyone would be, but
to our mechanic who might be listening.
We trust you 100%, which is probably why we see you so often.
Right. Yeah, it was usually with auto shop. It was the students. They really ran. When it came down to it, it was the boys that do what they were doing. I can remember just kind of hanging out, and I have no clue what you're supposed to be doing. Just be careful, or just who knew what they were doing, but it was fun. It was fun. So I get what you're saying about education, and the students were always wonderful. It was always there was something about having those students. And high school was my thing. I was not as much in love with elementary and younger. I taught it all. I taught everywhere from age 2 all the way up through senior in high school, and it was so I've had experience. I've taught at private and public schools both too, so I've done it all.
Wow.
So. Yeah.
Oh, see,
That's
you know.
right. That's yes, that's a range. My
Teachers have such a special patience, and huge credit to all teachers,
especially during the pandemic. I cannot picture what they've had to go through during the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So my hat is off to all.
I hear you. Yeah. Because that's it's funny because my last day in the classroom was the day everything shut down for the pandemic. I was in a classroom with seniors in high school, and the announcement gets made that school's being shut down for 6 weeks. And the seniors are coming to me. What about graduation? I'm thinking, I'm a sub. I don't know what to do. But it's going to be okay. They're going to work it out because you're not the only one. This is statewide. It's not just us. It's our whole state, and then as it's expanding, it's the whole country shutting down. So they'll figure it out, and they did. But I'll never forget that was my last day in the classroom, and I fully intend to do that.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I know. So very memorable. I will never forget that day. So you two now are full-time writers. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So when we talk about full-time writing, what kind of writing are you talking about?
Well, we do with our manager. Our scripts tend to be a little darker and edgier than what you might picture from us. We write.
Well, we started with rom-coms, but we wrote a couple of sort of like mysteries, and our management really enjoyed those and has kind of steered us in that direction more.
And then for our own pleasure, we write rom-coms. That's how we met Paul Greene. And then then we do comedy sketches just on our own. I was going to say,
we were doing, when I was still teaching in Newport Beach, I was coming up to LA on the weekends to do our live shows.
Yeah.
And we were writing those sketches, and that was so much fun. It feels like a whole other world now, because we were doing that right up until the pandemic, and then we had to stop. But
we were doing live shows, so you'd have to write the show, get the show directed, get it up on stage, and then you were already working on another show. So that was a very busy chapter. And we also do copywriting, where we're hired by commercial brands or other brands to write copy for either their commercials
web
or
pages and things like that.
So we do that writing as well. So each day is different. Different.
I've just our little sister, she writes novels, and so that's very inspiring, because she was a screenwriter for the longest time. And when you're a screenwriter, I don't think people realize how really collaborative it is. How there are so many voices and people weighing in on the story. So she started writing novels.
She wanted to do something that was completely hers.
And so I think I've taken a page out of that book, and I've started writing books just because you kind of need something that is 100% yours, where you're like, okay, if I could have it 100% my way, here's what it would look like. Collaborating is fun too, but I'm just saying you can need the outlet.
And you can't also, especially with our creative stuff, there's so much that we can do together on our own, and then there's so much there's a waiting game involved as well, right? So there's a little bit of the waiting game too, that we try to entertain ourselves during that.
So sparks of comedy, how did you come up with that? Was that did you guys come up with that?
Yeah, it was when we were doing our show, when we had to have, so we were doing a lot of comedy sketch writing, and so
I think it started off as a handle, and then it went to the show. Didn't we start it off as a handle?
Yeah.
For our social media, where we were like, well, what do we?
But it was based on the fact that we were doing, like, we needed a way
to YouTube channel
to advertise our live shows or talk about our live shows. So we were doing Sparks as a play on our name.
Twins for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then
or Sparks Fly. We were Sparks Fly for the longest time.
We did a whole. That's right, YouTube channel way back in the day. That was
Sparks Fly, and then Sparks of Comedy, and then it became that more permanently, which is kind of funny because only about 50% of our stuff is comedy now. So we have like these very dramatic names. It's like, it's a little bit.
But I think our production teams and the people we work with on those dramas just call it the Sparks Sisters. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Our work email is Sparks Sisters, so I think.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. So as far as this writing, is there anything that you guys have written that that we would be familiar with that you can mention?
So our stuff is still in production.
Because we had
Yeah.
quit. I was going to say we had quit teaching. I quit teaching officially to start the full-time writing in 2018, and literally the month before the pandemic, we had met with Alan Blasberg, who's a producer, and we were developing a show that was scheduled to go into production, and then the pandemic hit and everything shut down. So that is why he had us. He called us and he said, "Well, we at the time you think it's going to be a couple weeks." He's like, "Well, since we have a couple weeks and things are backburnered, let's start doing something to spread positivity." We all wanted to get on board with kind of helping everyone through the pandemic, and Allison had a lot of survivalist friends, so we decided to start doing that IGTV show we were doing, and that's we got to interview Paul Greene for that, and that's
we'd just been picked up by our manager literally right before the pandemic, and we're having meetings by Zoom right when Zoom had just been invented. So I feel like we do a few things but I'm not sure how much we can say, but I will say this: we're working
I was gonna say,
on.
you might see something in April, but we can't say anything with NDA yet.
Right. Oh yeah, no, I get that. Okay, well that actually makes sense then, because I know with writing it takes so long for these things. A lot of people think, oh, it's just really easy. They write the script, they send it over, they get the movie, and but things can be in development for years, and it can take years. Even once they green light it can take years, and then you add the pandemic into it, and it can even take longer because.
And sometimes they studios will buy your show just to keep it
on a shelf,
just to keep it from being produced by someone else because it's in competition with something else they're doing.
So you get very excited because you're like, oh yay, and then
and they're like, oh no, they're not going to make it. They're just buying it so that no one else will make it. It's like, oh, okay.
So it's a learning curve. But it's been fun. I definitely fulfilling.
That's good.
Oh, very, very much.
So you guys are writing together. Is that something? Is that challenging for you both to write together, or do you guys have a good workflow?
It was a big learning curve for us, Ruth. It was definitely a learning curve because we always
process. I think it's been evolving. We've
always been so separate, and then writing was something we always did separately. And then when we did this, we started doing our comedy sketches together, which that
was really easy because we would do.
Spoiler alert: I would write one sketch and Sim would write the other. We never collaborated on
our show. Our show generally had like 8 sketches, so I would write half and Al would write half, and then we would perform in both of them. But we were still
so we never. But our when we were picked up, our manager was like, "So for the next 5 years, you'll be writing together before you're even allowed to like consider other partners." Or we're like, "Oh yeah." So thus began the Sparks War 3. Sort of like, but we have found a very peaceful group, and
I think we're learning to.
Basically, we have 2 screenplays always going at a time. And Sin
helm.
helms one, I helm the other, and then we like do passes on each other's screenplays. So we found like our manager right now, wanted two scripts for the new year, and so we each helmed one. We didn't tell him this if he's listening, but we each helmed one and then did passes. So it sort of allows us to have our own voice, but also for it to be a shared voice.
No, I think that makes sense. I think that I've talked with several writing partners over the years, and they all have different ways of working. And if you find something that works, hey, I think that's great. So you two are there things that you really enjoy writing, or certain parts? I mean, certain styles or certain parts that are your strengths that you really like writing?
I think we're drawn to rom-coms. I think like in our dreams, we love rom-coms. We love the comic. There's always a little bit of very, very dry wit, and even in our thrillers, even in our dramas, we have that little dry wit, and that definitely comes from, I think, our childhood of writing our own little, we've always been silly, a little bit funny. So I think even the dark stuff that we write has that edge of humor. So I would say humor is the big draw. But the novel you're writing right now, I haven't even looked at it. Is it a rom-com or is it what? Is it? Oh, okay.
And I just finished 3 children's books I've submitted. So that was their poems. And Al and I, even when we were little, they're funny poems, kind of like Shel Silverstein's esque in as much as they're comedic, silly poems that kids would enjoy. And I think Al and I used to love cracking each other up with poems that we would write. We would try to be like as ridiculous as possible.
We were inspired by Jack Handy from SNL. Remember the Jack Handy from SNL? So we used to try to do really crazy,
yeah.
Okay. So do you guys have aspirations to act in any of these scripts that you've been writing?
Well, not primarily, but I know. So as part of our writing training at the Groundlings, you have to perform to get to writing lab at the Groundlings, which is where a lot of the SNL people come from. You have to perform in your sketches and other people's sketches. So accidentally start developing like the fun of being characters. And I think when you hide behind a character, it gives you a little bit of freedom, and it feels like childhood make-believe. So I think we've enjoyed doing our sketches as fun characters. Acting in a more serious sense would be definitely a fun challenge. I think they say comedy is very close to drama, really.
Yeah, we received a grant recently to work on a production that we're doing this summer, and more and more we're involving a lot of other people, but I think we put ourselves in it just because it starts taking on this life of how much fun it's going to be, and you just don't want to miss out on it. You're like, I really want to be literally in the room with these people when we're doing A, B, and C. So I think I think it's been very organic the way it's developed. I think that it's just felt very natural when we've been in front of the camera as opposed to behind it.
That's good. Well, and hopefully, no matter what, you'd be able to come to set once they're filming whatever project it is. Because I know that the writers I've talked to, that's always the thing. They want to at least come to set and experience it. You know, it's like if they get to have a little walk-on part, they're really excited. The ones I've talked to get really excited. So hopefully, when that will happen for you all, you know, that you'll get to at least go to set and experience it. We'll hope that for you, because I know that's lots of fun. Well, I know the people who are here have some questions. Okay.
Oh, your Instagram avatar looks so much like how you look. I can see the.
All right. I know how much you're into Survivor, and that kind of got me interested in you guys too, because I love Survivor. What do you think, or how do you think Paul Greene would do on Survivor?
Ooh,
and what were his pros and cons as to how he would do well or not do well?
Like, I think he would have to survive the first round of eliminations because he's such a gentle, sensitive soul that and also an athletic threat. So they'd want to get him out immediately. So he would first have to get past that first round. And then when they would see his skills in both athleticism, but also just bringing the tribe together, I feel like he would definitely.
I was going to say he's so good at bringing together community, and so many of the people on Survivor who are kept around, it's because the value they bring to camp sometimes. So you can tell he'd be a physical threat, but I also think that he would be kept around for the asset he brings to camp. But Allison has a great idea, and I'll pitch this here so it'll just get into the ether, that there should be a Survivor season where.
Should I say it?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Allison.
There should be a Survivor season that's from the first season to present, which I think we're on 42. All of the first offs get to come back and play because they didn't get.
So it's all the first offs are the tribes.
Yeah,
and that would be fun to see just how all the first offs do together.
That would be so
good answer.
Well, I guess we'll that would be interesting. Okay, thank you, Paula.
Hi.
Hi, Charlene.
Hi. I'm so excited to meet the two of you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Charlene.
I have a couple of questions because I have identical twin sisters.
Oh.
Brenda and Glenda. They're actually named like identical, and they're a little older than I am, and they're 10 minutes apart. My mother didn't know she was having twins at all.
Oh.
But and they were very identical. Of course, that's the most question I ever got in my life. You know, I was they kind of overshadow because they're, you know, identical twins or something real unique. And so they kind of overshadow you. Felt like I didn't have a whole lot of voice because the only question I ever got asked was, how do you tell them apart? How do you tell them apart? But
Thinking of our
We have
younger
a younger
sister,
sister.
Charlene, and I'm wondering because we've never met someone who had older identical twin sisters. So asking you, thinking of our sister, how is it being the younger sister of twins? It sounds like it's challenging because you get overshadowed a bit.
it's a little bit, yes, it is.
When she was little, she used to say, well, where's my twin? And I said, Lily, you have 2 twins.
Yeah, okay, well, because everybody kind of wanted to, that was natural, and go talk to the twins because they were so unique, and they just look at me and say, how do you tell them apart? Nah. They didn't look alike to me. They were always here for me. They didn't look alike to me, but they were very identical. And at school, they even, would sit in each other's classes, and the teachers never could tell them apart. Nobody could ever tell them apart. And I just wondered, did you all ever do that? Did you ever in school ever switch places or anything just to
We
trick?
think there's something in the water because at our school in Connecticut, there were 7 sets of twins in our graduating class.
We were the only identical.
We were the only identical female.
Really?
The McGrath twins were, but we were very goody two shoes, Charlene. And so I look back and think we should have, but we were the type of students where I remember our 8th grade English teacher found us outside the building eating M&Ms in
After school.
in the frosty
We were
cold.
waiting
And
for our parents to pick us up. So it's after school hours.
and she was like, Sparks, why are you not inside? It's freezing. And we're like, because we're eating candy and you can't have candy in school. And she was like, get inside the school right now.
Yeah. She probably was a little worried about us for a
She
few
was-
reasons.
So I wish we had Charlie, but at that age, we're very innocent.
Well, and I
very-
think by the time, when we were seniors in high school, which I think is when you start being a little more like caution to the wind, we're almost out of here type thing.
Yeah.
We were in the AP classes and they only offer one of that. So we were in every single class together.
our senior year.
So we had started off in kindergarten together, and then the school separated us and said we should never be together because they actually thought we couldn't speak.
And they thought Cinnamon was very violent, didn't they?
No, that's Allison's making that up, and now that clip is going to go viral.
You're the one that talked about death earlier,
No.
so now just bring it full circle.
That was
Bringing
Allison.
it full
Let's
circle.
rewind the tape. Let's
Bringing
rewind
it
the tape.
full circle.
But in kindergarten, we were in the same class and we didn't talk. And they called our parents in and said, "Are they able to talk?" And
They didn't realize how much we were communicating through ESP.
ESP. So because we never stopped talking at home, so our parents were shocked at this. So then they separated us, and we were never again in the same class until senior year. And then we had every single class together, so we couldn't.
Jokes on them.
Yeah. And our teachers just all called us the Sparks. They didn't even try. They didn't even try to tell who. They're just like Sparks.
But shout out to any teachers who may be listening.
And yes, we know it's, ironically enough, I've had twins in my classroom when I was teaching, and it is, as a twin, you'd think I'd be a little more sensitive with that, but it's very hard to tell them apart. And I can see I have empathy for the teachers that called us Sparks.
Yeah. Well, I can attest to the ESP thing because they're always in tune. I mean, and if Brenda tells me something, I know Glenda's going to call me in the next 10 minutes and tell me the same thing.
Oh,
They always live, and we're Texan. I'm originally from Texas.
Oh,
yes.
What
And
part of Texas are you from, Charlene?
actually, well, I moved to Florida from Houston. I had spent most of my adulthood in Houston working and everything, but originally from the Beaumont, Port Arthur, the southeast part of Texas. Yeah.
That's
Fort Worth, and I lived in Keller, Texas for 2 years. So.
Oh, really? Well, Brenda still lives in Dallas. She lives in Dallas, but and they moved when after college together to Houston, and they moved together to Dallas. They've always been together. The last, I guess, 3 or 4 years, they haven't been together for the first time because Glenda went and followed her daughter and grandkids to Oklahoma. So Glenda's in Oklahoma,
Hey.
but they've always been together before that. But does twins run in your family?
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
On our
my
dad's side.
Yeah, we have a whole lot of twins in our family. My grandmother had a set of twins, and my mother had a set of twins. Her brother had a set of twins, Dean and Jean, and my dad has now identical twins run in my mother's family, but fraternal twins run in my dad's family. And because I think Lacey and Leanne, but they're not identical.
Names, Charlene, how all of the twins have.
They all have matching names. Yes. That's why your names match. But in my family, everybody is like Dean and Jean, Lacey and Leanne, Brenda and Linda. Huh?
Our names. Yeah. Oh, and my mom tries to say our names rhyme. I don't.
I was an English teacher. They don't rhyme.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that might give credence to this idea that they were hippies. Because I'm sorry, Cinnamon and Allison just don't quite rhyme.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I pronounce my name Alice Cinnamon.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed meeting you and seeing you on the concerts. Yeah. Okay.
I know it. It's great to finally get that opportunity to interact with you and realize, I mean, we knew you were fun. We knew that. I mean, we obviously, and of course, but I just always think it's fun how, I mean, Paul always sees your name. I mean, like always, like you guys pop on and he always says, "Oh, it's Sparks of Comedy, Sparks of Comedy," and at first, when I didn't look you guys up, I actually wondered if you were like two guys in a comedy group. I mean, I really did. Which sounds weird. I know it sounds weird, but when I didn't look you up, I just thought, it's like, this is like a touring comedy group, and there are these two guys, and then it's like, oh no, and I had to do some research.
And he called us back in 2019 with one of the first things we co-wrote. It ended up in front of Paul Greene, and that's how we met him. He called us and was just such a beautiful. Now we know his spirit, and it's not a surprise at all. Yeah, but at the time, it was
very surprising.
It was and very like the kind of thing you needed in those first. We just started writing together, and he was just a really kind, thoughtful, supportive. He really was.
Very generous, very, very generous.
I'm really enjoying this conversation, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person one day.
Yes,
hopefully it will happen. Yeah, it's definitely on.
Yes. We tried to cancel again, but this time we couldn't. It seems like we burned that bridge too many times at the airline. So,
but I think it's good. I think we have to be brave now. It's time to travel.
Yes, definitely. I'm so looking forward to that. So I just had a quick question. What's your personal mottos that you live by?
Oh.
I know mine right away because
so do I. You go first because you spoke.
Oh, okay. I have paper, rock, scissors. When I was little, and I had credit it with my parents, would always. I think one of them had said this to me, but it really, really stuck. And so it's just to live without regret. And
that's what I was getting ready to say.
Was it really?
That is literally what I was going to say.
Well, you stole it from me, didn't you?
I love that.
But I think that as I get older and you realize how quickly life goes, and how I feel like in the eternity of like everything after life, you think of our time on Earth is going to be just such a short blip that it makes you kind of fearless because you're like, well, this is just my time on Earth. After this, there's infinity. So I think living without regrets and really embracing life to the fullest.
And mine is little ships go out to sea and bring good things back to me. That's how you're supposed to eat your soup. No, mine is.
I haven't heard that before.
It's about how you're supposed to eat with your soup. Little ships go out to sea and then bring the soup back. So you're like, anyway. My real one is live without regrets. I think there's a Mark Twain quote that I used to like in high school, had like hanging on my wall. And it was something about in 20 years, you'll remember the things you didn't do, you'll regret, and you'll never regret the things you did do.
Yeah. In life,
within reason. Within reason.
But yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for your answers, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Timmy. What's yours? Do you have a motto?
No, not really. Carpe diem, maybe.
Yeah, seize the day.
Good one. That's a really good one. That's good. That was good. I like that you switched it up and asked Timmy a question. That's good. That was really good. I like that. I love that.
Put me in the spotlight. Thank you.
No, exactly.
I had one more small one. What do you admire most about each other?
That's
a great one,
Paula's a
Paul.
peacekeeper. She knows we're going to fight after this if we don't. Thank you, Paul. And by the way, when we say fight, we're 90% joking, not really fight.
Well,
10% true though. All right, what I admire most about Cinnamon, or what I've learned living with Sin, is she's just very sensitive and tuned into her environment. So if you're part of that environment, she's just like a natural caretaker and very sensitive. Also very inspirational with her self-discipline, with her writing. I take each day and like, oh, what do I feel like? And Cinnamon is very like, she has a clock and a set schedule, and I know where to find her at certain hours because she's writing. Very dedicated.
I would say about Allison, I really admire her can-do attitude. Allison is very the sky's the limit. She thinks in really, she inspires me with how she does not set up boundaries for herself. She'll wake up and just want to do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I think I take a little longer to process things, and Allison's very spontaneous. She's the one that booked our flights to the UK in 3 weeks. Like, she's very, she's very adventurous and very, very faithful. And really, when we came to this cabin, that was Allison for the 2020, the 2020 New Year's. She had done a watercolor of a cabin, and kind of like a vision board, if you will. And so when the pandemic hit, Allison was like, let's head off to the forest to a cabin. And I was like, I'll go with you to look at these cabins out, but I think you're heading by yourself to the forest. And then we walked into this. This was the first. We had 3 we were going to see that day. We walked into this one. I was like, okay, I'll move here. I'll live here forever. Like it's
very charming.
So charming.
It's right. It's in the national forest.
We literally border over 250,000 acres of federal forest.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
Stunning.
Well, thank you, Paula Waters. That was a great question. That was really a great question to wrap things up. Better question than I could have come up with. And that's another thing. That's what I love. I love the audience, because the audience brings an energy and they bring questions that I would not always think of. And so I love that. And so far my guests have been enjoying it. And you have been an absolute delight, both of you. I have enjoyed getting to know you and learning more about you. And so thank you for being my guest. And if you guys
it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for reaching out to us.
And for even having the idea to, I mean, this is a way of also just spreading positivity into the community. So beautiful, Ruth.
Yes, we really respect that. And what a lovely way to start the day with this group of people. So thank you so much for having us, Ruth.
Oh, well, thank you. But thank you all for being here. And it was great getting to see you.
Thank you, Linda, Mary, Brian, Paula, Chad, Amy,
Paula Cooley.
Yeah.
So nice to meet y'all.
Good to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ruth.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
All right. You guys.
Thank you all for this brilliant chat.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, you guys were awesome. You guys were amazing.
Oh, thank you, Ruth.
I loved it.
Oh,
thank
you.
you.
So much fun.
Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy your day.
Well, hopefully you found this informative, fun, hilarious, and you realize just what a treasure these Sparks twins are. It was so much fun. I don't think I know I have never interviewed twins at any point. And how cool is this for them to be the first twins I've ever interviewed? So there you go. I do invite you to check out the show notes so that you can follow them and you can see what they're up to, because it looks like some exciting things are on the horizon for them. And while you're doing that, I would so appreciate if you would take a few moments, and if you enjoy my podcast, Media from the Heart, it would be really great if you would follow me, rate, review on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platform that you are accessing this, YouTube, whatever it might be. I cannot thank you enough. Your support means so much, and you just never know who I'm going to interview next. Please join my Facebook group And I look forward to seeing you on another episode of Media from the Heart. God bless all of you. Have a great day.